Okay. This,
That was
this
torture.
that was torture. Okay. All right. We are going to get this started. Hello, everyone. Synergy Sesh. Happy hour. Now that we have this actually working, you know, this happens to us every time. We can't help it. It just is what it is. It's a part of the Synergy Sesh journey. But we're really excited. We have Mehka King, Cash Color Cannabis, with us today. I'm gonna let Shalise intro us in so we can get into this.
As you all know, over there is Miss Long. I'm Sister Rogers, and we're your business aunties helping you to get to that. So welcome to Synergy Sesh Happy Hour, where we discuss business 101 topics like an introduction to entrepreneurship, financial management, legalities, digitally marketing your business, and having some honest conversations about cannabis industry shenanigans, because it's always real and something's always happening.
Listen, today we have one of our dear friends, Mehka King, and I really want to jump in here because I know we're late. Our bad. But we're so excited for tonight. Mehka King has spent his professional career as a journalist and content creator, known to most as a contributor to publications including the hilltalk.com, Double XL, Slam Magazine, Hip Hop Weekly, and DJsDoingWork.com. Mehka turned his fresh perspective and keen knowledge for storytelling into a diverse writing resume covering music, sports, the evolving cannabis industry, and politics. In 2010, he founded Invisible Man Media. The company would serve as a vehicle to not only publish his creative works, but also work with brands in developing stories and curating content for their digital channels. In 2016, Mehka began his third documentary, The Color Green, Cash Color Cannabis. The film examines the declassification of cannabis in the U.S. and where minorities who bore the brunt of the destructive drug laws fit in the new multi-billion-dollar industry. Mehka launched Cash Color Cannabis in 2017. The brand, which began as one of Atlanta's first cannabis event series, has grown into a voice of the people and steady source of information and trends within the cannabis industry. I could go on, but I feel like we just need to bring Mehka in and get this party popping.
Yes. Mehka's like the friend of
Yes, the technology is so fly.
Technology is fly, okay? And your business aunties got you, okay? We out here doing it.
Well, thank you for the intro. I actually felt like that wasn't me. I'm listening to you talk about it. I'm like, who's about to come out here?
Mehka King. Mehka King, we got him.
Hey.
How are you,
Mehka? Do too. It's late. And FYI, me and my wife just learned how to use an air fryer. So it's been a pretty old people lit night.
Y'all lit. I swear. The first month of air fryer having is like chicken wings every kind of way.
Go down. It's about to go down. That already just happened. That might have been what threw me off as far as trying to get logged on. I was eating the wing and I was like, damn, this is good.
I'm mad happy for you.
Thank you very much.
Tell us, what have you been up to, Mehka? Like, I just want everyone to know that when we bring people on here, it's because our network is popping. And Mehka he was fostered from a poppin' network. I met Mehka through Shay L. Lawson, okay? And from there, Mehka has had Shalise and I on his Cash Color Cannabis talk show down in Atlanta, and has featured Synergy Sesh, and we are just so grateful for Mehka and all that he does. Really excited to get into what you were up to. So just give us some high level updates real quick.
Wow. First off, I've been trying to stay healthy, through this pandemic that we've been having, because like most people, I was taken aback when it happened. Like I was literally at the studio, we were recording, and that was the week prior to, I guess they really had to do a national shutdown.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I tell the story on the podcast because when we came back, I felt like, you know, I think we all just need to have a real conversation about what just happened.
Yeah.
A week prior to that, I started feeling sick, and I didn't know why. You know, I absolutely didn't know why. And then I leave the studio one night, and this is literally out like days now before they started announcing the national shutdown. I I fell out in my house, and I was by myself, and I'm talking about I was sick for 5 days, and it was a sickness I never had in my whole entire life. Like I could barely walk. I could barely taste anything, and I didn't know anything that was happening, period, whatsoever to my body. I just knew that it was just the worst feeling ever. And then I get another feeling where that was worse, even worse than that, when my friend Nicole Scarlett, who's our videographer, she calls me up and says, you know, they just canceled South by Southwest. And this is now 3 days into me being sick. And we just left the show. And now she
Wow.
tells me this. And I'm like, well, that's serious because you're talking about real money. And
Right.
South by Southwest wouldn't shut down something where they know they basically
Right.
multi-millions of dollars unless it was a real problem happening. So, like many people, I had to get my head focused around what was going to be next, really. You know, for the longest, we couldn't get back in studio, so we couldn't do a live show. Blessed for me, you know, we started off with online properties. So it was
Right.
cashcollectcanvas.com, and then we had atlantabisclothing.com. So during the middle of the pandemic, we were still able to keep content going for the most part. You know, we were
Yeah.
able to do stories. I was able to contract out stories and get some stuff written. And then before you know it, me and Herb started working together, and we were doing everything from Zoom interviews to all kind of things to keep content going on Live Hip Hop Daily until they felt comfortable coming back into the studio. But yeah, we were just really in a good position, and that's really what's been up. You know, just making sure that we stay healthy
Yeah.
and keep the content going for Cash Color Cannabis. And we really had a good streak of doing that this year. We haven't had a stoppage in the episodes. We've been able to air every Tuesday since then, except for once. We've been able to air every Tuesday with a new episode. The clothing line's been going well. As a matter of fact, almost want to thank the pandemic for the clothing line going well. You know, like people sitting in their house, like I would be up at 3 a.m. buying stuff. You get
Yep.
notifications all day of drug lord shirts and stuff like that. I'm like, all right, well, I'm out here buying too. Let's support each other. So
Absolutely.
now we're working out, and so now we're kind of getting back in the swing of things. We're back in the studio now. We've been back in for about 3 months now. That's not normal. I don't want to make Atlanta seem like it's normal part of this world. That is not
Mhm.
normal. We just have an abnormal governor, and who has an even worse relationship with the mayor of Atlanta. So as far as we know, we can go wherever we want to go, but just be careful.
Yeah.
So we've been back in the studio for a couple months and doing our thing, and yeah, that's it. Just making sure that we stay healthy and stay productive.
First of all,
Right.
we are so happy that you are with us today
Yeah.
because it's real, and
Yeah.
praise, the spirits to all of those that have had COVID and have made it through, but there are so many that haven't. And so we're so happy that you made it past and are healthy and with us today. You and your
Thank
family.
you,
Yeah.
man. Thank you. I mean, really, it was, and I hate to say it was COVID, but every time I mention it, somebody says, "Oh yeah, you had COVID," and I'm like, "Yeah, I guess I gotta claim it." But it was the worst situation I've ever felt in my whole entire life. To
Yeah.
the point where even when it was done, I still felt sick. Like I remember trying to walk down the stairs, and it took me it just took forever. Like your whole body shuts down.
And so we're going to talk about a whole array of things tonight. But I do want to touch on these points regarding like kind of politics, and this sickness has become so political in the way that our government is reacting to it. And, you mentioned that your state's governor, Mehka, is in Georgia, by the way, everyone, all of our viewers. And so the way your governor has really taken the leap is kind of the every man woman for himself, which is how some parts of the world are really taking it. And I feel that is a big problem when we're thinking about past viruses, things that we didn't really have the ability to get control over. And here we have an opportunity to stop something that is killing hundreds of thousands of people and just destroying the economy. And the fact that we have a lot of people in political power not doing what is necessary But at the same time, on the other end, you have people that want to go back to work. Their businesses are falling apart. So they want to, it's so many powers at play here. How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel like, I mean, as a what I figure, I am a regular person and I am also a business person. I felt both sides. And on one end, I wanna be compliant, and I need to sit back and I need to make sure that I play by the rules, because I really want it to be a better situation. I want to be done, period. I'm from Boston, and I had a chance to go back home a couple of months ago, and Boston and Massachusetts overall is a different animal than Atlanta, and it was crazy. Like when you walk into Boston, not only is they look at you like you crazy for not walking in the store with a mask. Like they have it together there. I come back down to Atlanta. You see, I'm in an Uber recently, and an Uber driver didn't have a mask on, and there's a whole sign on it that says "Have a mask." It's like so.
Wild.
I feel where people are coming from. It's like almost you're watching a whole war of cultures. There's people who think that this is a step on there's somehow constitutional rights as a citizen of America. And then there's people who feel like, some people are taking it not as serious enough, and that we need to be staying in way longer. I just feel like it's so hard to really navigate. And I actually feel bad for politicians. I mean, as much as they have politicized the situation, I feel bad for you because there's really no middle line to walk. At this point, when you throw in the fact that we have social media and we have the chatter that goes on with social media, and that drives so much of the conversation, that it's hard for you to step back and just kind of take a middle road point of view of things. Like, say, I believe that we should wear masks. I believe that you should be in quarantine. I believe we should take some of this in moderate. You can't be that person right now. You either got to be on the left side or the right side, and that's it. Right. And it's a terrible situation we're in. I really do pray that we get through it as soon as possible. I think part of it is changing leadership on a lot of levels, from president down to the Senate. It really takes a lot of change in order to make some of this really stick.
Absolutely, down to local and who you really are leaning on to lead yourselves. Like it takes more than the people that we put in power. They don't even have enough time on their hands to do what needs to be done. No. And I really believe in this cross-sector alliance that needs to happen in order to get anything done. But I don't want to talk too much about that.
It's a bit more. It's not just about a change in leadership, but also a change in perception as well. Like if we believe that it only is a left and a right thing, or a Republican and a Democrat thing, versus I think that the more that we continue to keep that rhetoric or continue that narrative, then we're not allowing ourselves to be innovative in our thoughts on how we can come together as communities, as individuals, and solve whatever little problems that may pop up because of COVID. So yeah, it would be ideal for politicians to say something, to do something on our behalf, but how much are we leaving in the hands of our politicians versus doing for ourselves? Which is why I always kind of argue that, like, as many Black people who are like a part of the Democratic Party, I'm kind of like, a lot of us really have conservative points of view. When we really think about it. And I think that what's polarized is not necessarily even politics. What's polarized is racism and like conspiracy theories. Like that's what's polarized.
So many conspiracy theories.
And they're so easy to be peddled. And one thing I feel like the pandemic definitely exposed was all lives don't matter. And that for the longest that was a thing to say. If somebody said Black Lives Matter, look, the fact that y'all are so flagrant about people dying and whether or not something's real or not proves to me that all lives do not matter to y'all. This is 100% a conversation, but the pandemic's real. Like, I don't know how else to say this. It just because you don't suffer from it, and it's almost like racism. Like, I'm watching people really deal with a lot of real issues right now. Simply because you don't deal with it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I'm watching people put that mentality towards this. And I tell them, like, well, think about racism. Like, what if a white person told you, because I don't deal with it, racism doesn't exist? That doesn't mean, just because you're not dealing with it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It's still happening. Pay attention, man. I want to shake people sometimes.
And that's a lot of people's vantage point. Like, if it's not happening to me, why should I care? Like, this has nothing to do with me. This doesn't affect me. A lot of people have that perspective, and it's unfortunate, but even when we think of it on the larger scale of things, when we talk about homelessness and food insecurity and things of that nature versus who's getting a stimulus check to people that are in middle class, and do they have good schools based on the next higher up class? There's a whole realm of things that we have to think about that are just, it takes a lot, and we can't sum it up in this happy hour. But I also do want to talk about the fact that you said it was not easy, but easier for you to transition cash color cannabis into kind of this new world because of technology, and because you guys were digital before. So can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because as an entrepreneur, being able to adapt during this time is critical. And so we want to hear your adaptation story.
Yeah, the first thing I had to do was watch other people attempt to adapt. Like I said, we had the website, we already had our YouTube subscribers, we already had, these things were already in play for us. So even when there was a time between February and April where there was a boom in people listening to podcasts, we were part of that. We already had 200 episodes up. I was watching other people get acclimated to this new situation, and it was interesting, especially celebrities. I joke on the show a couple of episodes ago about how another thing the pandemic exposed was how many influencers and celebrities really didn't have anything to do. Like if they weren't literally booked to do something, they had zero to do. And I noticed it when you start seeing so many Instagram lives and so many people doing Instagram interviews, and I'm like, man, y'all don't have nothing to do, and you're boring. You multiple things at the time. I learned how many influencers didn't have anything to do and were boring. I learned how many people did not do interviews at all. At all. Like the thing you thought was simple was far from simple. But it is an adaptation. Like you have to learn how to move into this new space, especially if you call yourself a brand, which many people do call themselves. So if you were somebody who did have a show that didn't necessarily lean on anything that didn't lean on a website, didn't have like the streaming options that we had, then you were playing behind the eight ball, really. What I mean, when it came to this space, because now it's like you really playing catch up in a world where there's a whole more eyes and a whole more people like being able to look and hear you, but they now have so many other options, so if you're
so many options.
It's totally hard, but I feel like, again, it's about starting. And if the minute this happened, that should have been the next thing that most brands tried to do, was figure out how to adapt their model. If we can't do live shows, if we can't go to outside to somebody, how do we still reach that customer? How do we still reach that listener? Podcasts and blogs are amazing ways to do that. And that's something that you can still baby step your way into. Like that's something that you can start with. If you even have 10 to 12 followers right now, you can start off with a blog. You can start off by teaching them that this is a way that you can communicate with us. This is a way that you can find information with us. It's all about training. It's all about training your present customer and your future customers on how they're going to start engaging with you. And that's the main thing you got to really start thinking about nowadays. How are you going to teach these people how to do that? Like I had to, again, we have a situation with the mail, like a couple months ago, there was almost no way to mail somebody a package from AtlantaBits.com. All right, so now we have a situation where that's shut down. We had to adapt then. So we started doing our own pop-ups. So we do pop-ups from our podcast to we join on other friends who do amazing events throughout the city. And we opened up that revenue stream. So now whenever we can officially mail back stuff, and I feel like it's safe to keep going back to the mailing and people get their packages in a reasonable amount of time, we can get back to promoting the website the right way. But it's all about having those things lined up and being able to teach the people that you're around how to actually interact with you. It's never going to be the other way around. You can't let a customer tell you what to do. They already have their eyes. Like, again, they have eyes on a billion things right now. You following that, you're going to run down a rabbit hole.
Yes. Rabbit holes. So many gems were just dropped, Mehka. Like, this is why we fucks with you, because we love to hear it real. And there were so many lives. And it got overwhelming for the most part. And then you started to see things trickle down. At Synergy Sesh, we really felt like everything that we were already doing was kind of behind the scenes and hands-on and requires us to like work. It doesn't require us to do a lot of social media. We don't need a lot of attention. And so we were very, what is the word I'm looking for? Focused on not just chatting with people just to chat with people. Yeah. That's never been our intent. We've always wanted to ensure we were providing a service to help people get to where they needed to be. And as entrepreneurs, there's two of us, having to think about how you effectively utilize time in this time where there is so much time. But I feel like this was also an entrepreneur's kind of dream, especially new entrepreneurs or small businesses. It gave them some time to just be with your business plan and be with that idea that you had been wanting to develop, and now you have the time to, because you no longer have to trek to and from work. Most people, don't get me wrong, we have a lot of essential workers that have to keep going, but thinking about from an entrepreneur's perspective, can you give us some insight as to what you think have been some of the wins for people in media, in your space specifically?
Oh, I got a good one. It leveled the playing field, you know, and I never felt like at any given point that I was below a High Times or Mary Jane or any of them properties. It's not, I'm not even speaking down on them. I just never felt that I was ever below them in any way. But during this pandemic, I most certainly saw a more level playing field, because where it might take a certain podcast or a certain outlet 8 or 9 people to put on a podcast. It takes me and Herb to do on a podcast, you know, and when you can't have 8 or 9 people in the studio, that means I'm watching people not have episodes for 4, 5, 6 weeks. Where me and Herb, again, it's me and Herb. Like, we could do it from Zoom and do just like this. And we had it, yeah, easily. And again, we kept the content rolling. So it was the first thing I felt was level playing field. At this moment right now, we're all starting from zero, whether or not you have 100,000, a million followers, or 10,000 followers. Everybody's starting at zero. What do you have to start with, though? And again, we came through already with something. Like, we had 200 episodes of podcast. We already had them on YouTube. We already had them on everything from Spotify to Apple to now we're on Amazon Music. We already had events that we already did. We already solidified our name. So when I said we started over, I felt like we started over with a whole backpack full of stuff, though. You know, it wasn't like we just stuck in bare. We stuck in with empty pockets. We stuck in with everything, and we was able to take advantage of that new space. And I feel like when we pop out in 2021, you're going to see that not only was there a level playing field, but we might have really got to the point where you're going to have to mention us when you say High Times, Mary Jane, and Cash Color Cannabis.
Absolutely. Claim that, because that is real. Leveling the playing field. And I love that you say it like that, because especially when it comes to cannabis, I feel like there is still such a level playing field in some ways. But I want to talk a little bit about cannabis in Atlanta and cannabis in Georgia. Where do you think things are going? Let's start there.
Well, I know the Georgia Medical Commission, they just, it was about a week ago, they just closed out, I guess, their sessions. That's the group who's in charge of getting out the licenses and all those type of situations. So the most I know absolutely right now is I know there's 6 licenses available. I know that of those 6 licenses, about 4 of them, of the 6 licenses, I think 4 of them are for cultivation. But don't let me I don't want to I don't want to say that incorrectly. I do know that 6 of them are going to be up, and I'm pretty sure them 6 of them that 6 of them are going to be gone fairly quickly. I know the minute that they're available, if they aren't already done. But the amazing thing about Georgia is, from no matter if you're talking about white or black, you're watching a state that's adapting to a new world when it comes to cannabis without any permission. You know, and I say that proudly, without any permission. From some of the businesses you're seeing coming up, to the events that we see happening, to even some of the people I know who are now moving into the city, who are people who are coming from legalized places, who are coming here because they see exactly what's happening. This is a thing that's already being built, whether or not the governor or any law just happens to pass. We're actually way ahead of them. and it's the sad part is it affects the patients, more than anything.
Absolutely.
If you're still in a place where you can't go purchase medical cannabis, whether it's flower form or anything like that, if you still can't go purchase that, then that's a problem. You know what I mean? And though there's still channels where you can do that, especially through the legacy market, that you would want to have a safe place, being that there are almost half the country right now has a safe place. So I feel like Georgia's going to catch up to what's already happening, and I think and once it does, it's going to be an amazing place to be at. It's going to be definitely a place where you're going to see a lot of businesses crop up, from what we already have, where we have the entertainment industry, where we already have what's going on in sports, where we already have what's going on in business. Adding cannabis would just be another layer of making the state of Georgia great.
So many gems.
Yeah, we tend to move in front of policy, and then policy catches up to us, whether it be this or just anything else. Even as we were talking about Atlanta.This and not being able to send things out of state, it's like you have to move, and then the policy and all the legalities and the government bureaucracy stuff afterwards. I'm really interested in more about kind of like the culture of cannabis in Atlanta, because the few times that we were there, we got to see like a bit of it, but what does that look like now in the era of COVID? And then how does Atlanta.This clothing represent that culture?
Wow, that's a good question. I feel like the culture in Atlanta is again, it's amazing, being that none of this should happen. Like literally, this is Wakanda in all its forms. When you think about what's happening when it comes to cannabis in Atlanta, none of this actually should happen, but it's happening, and it's happening in an amazing way. Like last week, we had Jadakiss come and host a pop up. Like, why is that happening in Atlanta? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But Jadakiss is here, and then a couple days later, you have like another big event come through, and I'm like, all this is happening in the city of Atlanta. It's dope. And the amazing part is I got a chance to see so much of it bloom at the studio. A lot of it took through a lot of networking and a lot of people just sitting down and having what I didn't know was even happening until they told me later. You talking about weeks and weeks and weeks of coming to the show, just to have meetings about what you was about to do, and now you're seeing these amazing pop-ups come together, and you're seeing people collab and taking that there. You had this ability to make edibles. You had the ability to do to get these certain strains. Why don't we come together and do a little miniature underground pop-up? That's happened several times from our studio, and I'm watching people now make just really making major strides and really building their names out, not just in Atlanta, but becoming people who are now going to pop-ups in legal places. You're getting invited out there. It's dope to see. It's really dope to see, and it's dope to know that I played a part in that. I humbly say, that I had a chance to play a part in that and be able to see that happen, and to see so many. Like recently, I had my man Ross with DUI ATL. He has a dope pop up that he's doing. I had a chance to have him actually come on the show and speak about it. And I told him when he came to speak, I said, bro, you're the second person I've had on who's a vendor. I said, I remember when that was so taboo, that y'all wouldn't come out and ever poke your head out. But now it's like, boom, we here.
and we want people to know where they can get it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. You have to, especially when you're in a place again where this jumps over racial barriers. You're talking about Black and white people who actually need this medicine for a certain particular reason. So I'll be in a pop up that I think is on, let's say, in the middle of the hood, and you will absolutely see a large group of white people in there, and they'll be in there having full conversations about saying medical properties or whatever, with a person you would have never thought would even knew that, and all these.
I need them to keep that same energy when it comes to decriminalization.
Oh, you already know.
And ensuring, reparations and all the other good stuff.
Yes, that's something else we learned during the pandemic. How many companies didn't have anything to do, because if you were a business, you really had the opportunity to really make some moves, because a lot of major companies spent a lot of time trying to realizing that they weren't ever diverse, and that they were really playing way behind. Like, we watching major companies celebrate Juneteenth like it was brand new. At that moment, that's when you knew you could sweep in at that moment, you should have knew that you could sweep in and introduce a whole lot of things. Like, a bunch of people just realized Juneteenth was a thing.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, God. I wanted to bring that back to something you were saying earlier about kind of the political state influencing people's beliefs and reactions to the coronavirus.
Yes.
I think that individualism in politics, and then even more so in cannabis, is like depicted through the war on drugs. People feel like, oh, well, none of these communities actually need any type of restitution. They don't need money at any point. Like, why should we be reinvesting? Or like, well, if we can't figure it out, or if they're not applying, then like we did our part. You know, we lowered the prices for the licenses, which is why it is so important what you're doing in not only just putting on for your city, but making sure that you're connected to people who are in the legal business and also within the underground. And
Yes.
that's a perfect place to be because,
and that was important to me. After a while, I said to myself, matter of fact, it was a couple of months ago, I said to myself that, if you really want to be the brand that you say you want to be, that you're going to have to start reaching out deeper into the people that you can reach out to. And I remember going to my first pop-up. I told Sherelle, I told my wife, it felt like Hulk Hogan going into the ECW. Like, I know people know me, but I don't know if they want me here.
right.
But after a while, like 3 hours later, it was all love and people coming up to me
Yeah.
talking about, I would listen to the podcast. I never really told you, what I'm saying? But it was super dope. But you have to do those type of things, and it's again, you're seeing now major companies have to do it, but they're doing it way behind. But you should have to reach down and start working with other people. You should have to reach down and say, there's a whole nother group going on, and I can't ignore that this isn't happening while I do these other things. Like, I need to either acknowledge it and take part of it, or admit that you might be losing touch. You might be losing touch with what could be the next wave in Atlanta. Like, you were dope. You might be past tense soon.
Mm-hmm.
You might be past 10 soon.
Connection to culture is what keeps you relevant as a brand
Yes.
because you have a direct connection to the people, and if you lack any of that, then you're kind of just like putting out a product and hoping that because it's cannabis, it's going to sell itself.
And that doesn't happen. That often happens when they try to slap a celebrity on it. But you really gotta make that connection. Like, I listen to KRS-One. KRS-One has a song called "Out of Here." I listen to that once a day because it reminds you that at any given moment through this story that I'm telling you, I can also remind you that, do you ever think about when you out of here? Like when the fame and all this stuff is out of here. Like, you ever think that could happen? Nobody. A lot of people don't think that could happen. A lot of businesses don't ever think they'll ever be out of business, and then a pandemic hits. And now you got to realize, what skill set do you really have to make sure that you ain't out of here?
Yeah,
absolutely. And that really goes into like the professional development of the business owner and really fundamentally your business plan. Like, do you have an exit strategy?
Yeah.
Because even if that exit time has shrunk for a lot of people, and a lot of people, like you said, did not have that plan put in place. And it's really unfortunate. And a lot of what we're seeing, a lot of the people that have to file for unemployment, are former business owners. And hopefully they'll be able to jump back. But a lot of them will not. I was reading something either yesterday or earlier today about how this pandemic has pushed us into like 2023, really kind of the way the future was already heading. We have been forced into it, especially, being more digital. It was really coming to this at some point. And I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but I think that I need progress to come. And if we had to go through this in order to get there a little quicker because the earth couldn't really handle much more, we're going to have to do what we have to do there. But in terms of networking, you mentioned a lot about how you had to network yourself, and then you facilitated a lot of networking through Cash Color Cannabis and your studio. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of that? Because we really want our viewers to understand, entrepreneurs to understand the beauty within networking, especially for, some people that may be a little bit more introverted and going out talking to people is not really their thing, but networking is necessary.
Networking is definitely necessary, and I am that introverted person who doesn't like walking out and just talking to people. So I'm that person. Like, almost everything from Cash Color Cannabis to me doing the pop-ups is almost like therapy for myself. Just deal with it. Sometimes you got to speak to people. Sometimes you got to do that. But networking is key, and like you mentioned with Live Hip Hop Daily, that's actually my man Herb's studio. But that happened through networking. Like I just happened to be there doing an interview, and me and him got to talking, and he's mentioned that he had his open space. And I mentioned I had an idea for a podcast, and before you know it, we had this Tuesday night thing where we now have a co-space, I guess, where we nurture a whole nother community, and we allow for people who just cannabis consumers, to people who want to be in business, to people who are kind of curious, to people who don't care, just wanted something to do on a Tuesday night, who will stop by the studio and come and just hear an interview. And almost every time you'll watch the conversations happening, and it's dope that you're watching connections being built. You're watching ideas being formed. Like there's two friends of mine, my friends Peachy and Shayla. They have a company now called Shady Peach. I literally watched that happen over months at my studio and did not have a clue that was happening. And it's amazing to see them now work and do their own events together. And now they got their own podcast together. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. You two probably would have never connected past Instagram if it wasn't for a chance meeting here at Cash Color Canopy. So it is all about networking. It's all about making sure that when you're in that right space, or when you're in the space that you feel like is right for you, open up yourself enough to be humble and cool enough to say, hey, how you doing? And being cool with somebody saying nothing. That just, nothing. Take it as a sales technique. They speak about you, and they speak in sales that you're gonna have to ask 9 people to get to the 10th person who's gonna be that yes. You're gonna get 9 no's, absolutely. So if as a salesperson, you should go out and be ready for the no's. And think about that from a networking perspective. When you think about networking, think about it from a sales perspective, that I gotta get a yes. In order to get a yes, I'm gonna go through 9 no's. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna speak to a couple of people, and someone's gonna say no, someone's gonna ignore me, someone's gonna
Can we harper on this point, because Shalise and I were literally just talking about failure. Literally just talking about failure. And I know we in our Keep Your Network Poppin' series, we like to talk about the challenges that entrepreneurs face. So can you share however much you want about some of the failures or road bumps that you have faced along this journey?
Where can I start? I can tell you about some of the more recent ones, because I feel like it really helps me become a better person.
Yeah.
And that's realizing and figuring out how to budget. This is probably, and I was telling my moms this recently, that this watching Cash Color Cannabis happen is basically a plan that happened in 2002. I'm just about to get out of college, and I had this idea called Last Word Online. And at that time, to have a website cost $600 a month, and I had to borrow that money from her to do that. And that lasted for a year, and that got me in front of double XLs and slams and all that. But I say that to say, that there's going to be a lot of this. So much goes into being where you are right now. And sometimes you got to look back, and you got to really be cool enough to say and humble enough to just reminisce on all these failures. And I had so many failures between Last Word Online, between DJs doing work. And I look at it now from a perspective of, how can I make all that kind of better? And when I was mentioning budgeting, I thought about that immediately. I'm now making more money through different streams. I now spend that money all differently, because at one point I had it all coming into the same channel, like it was all coming into the same place. It took me a while to realize that, all right, so you're making this now money, but you're watching it disappear faster. How are you gonna make this stay faster? You now have this ability to do this. First thing you have to do is split up all these channels. Like, you can't have all the money coming into the same place. And I started, that alone, failing miserably when it comes to overspending for websites, to all this other stuff, to coming up to you right now, to where you're now starting to make money. I realized that through that failure, how important it is to budget. And that was the long story of that. I learned the importance of budgeting, importance of making sure I make my payroll. I now have employees, and making sure that I'm able to
keep the bag.
Man, look, making sure I'm paying people. Like, this is all a real thing, because people are watching me now. It's way more visible. You're seeing me at pop-ups. People are like, yo, I know you got it. So I know you got it, and now I got to make sure I produce it. And a big part of that is making sure you budget. And that's been my biggest failure, is never actually thinking about that budget. Like I mentioned about Out of Here. It's rare that it's taken me up until now to start thinking about the next day. There's so much, you spend so much thinking about what's about to happen right now, that you don't take a beat and think about what's happening the next day. And I think that was a big issue with me when it comes to my failure as in spending habits and things like that. I never thought about the next day. You know, I was just ready to do whatever I had to do that moment. And now, as a business person, I have to think about the next day every day. You know, I have to think about the first of the month. It's not just my basic bills. It's I got Nicole, I got Nicole on here. I got Kayla, I got Herb. I got you got people who are now dependent on you, and you got to make sure that keeps going. It's not a game no more.
Absolutely.
I'm
Can
just
you
like
Mecca, Mecca, like all the gems, especially when you talk about finance, like it just like boils our insides because finance is everything.
Man, I should
So,
write a book called "How Not to Be Broke No More."
listen, that's the title. That's the whole
Mhm.
title. What pushed you into this mindset that you have now? Because you said you just started thinking this way.
Yeah.
And what was the switch for you?
Whew, every bit of it happened after I got sick, and I'm not. This is not a joke. Like the couple of weeks I was alone because my wife was in Florida at the time. She was down in Florida working, and everybody around me was around me, but they all were spaced out. So it wasn't like there was somebody close to reach to. So literally, it was just me and myself for like 2 straight weeks. And I started taking some tips from my mom. My mom has been a big proponent of you read a lot of books. I need you to read the Bible, and need to get into certain chapters. Like right now, I'm still studying Joseph, and and she tells me to pick up on certain things that you're seeing in there as far as when it comes to obedience, when it comes to humility, when it comes to having an actual faith, a fixed faith focus, and making sure that you have your mind straight there. And for 2 straight weeks, I just read and I just kind of thought about things. And slowly things started coming to me that I felt I needed to hear, but I couldn't hear before. And one of them, started with the clothes. Mech, what are you doing with the clothes? You got all these ideas, but which ones are the most popular? I couldn't really funnel that out until one day I'm flipping through TV and I saw a show called The Hustle. And I'm watching Hustle, and he had a whole episode on there where he was discussing with a clothing line how to streamline their business. And I'm watching this show like, all right, well, I guess I am being humble enough to listen. So I'm watching this whole show, and I'm like taking notes because I'm like, yeah, he's right. If this is the most popular thing to sell, why am I wasting time just having space up here? So slowly but surely, I started changing the way Atlantis was even marketed, how I organized the website, how I even spoke about things. I would only speak about the three popular things. I'd let you know there's other things, but we're gonna speak about the three popular things. That alone opened up doors. And I was sitting there looking like, all right, so now I'm getting these sales. Let me see how else this could work. The next thing you know, me and Herb getting back together and we talking about stories and we talking about episodes. And he says, Meg, this is probably the best time for you to get some of the people you can get. You have a really big network and everybody's home. And I said, I don't know, man. So let me hit some people up. And before you know it, yeah, we have Starlies and we have all these people on Instagram Live with us in the middle of the week. And again, the numbers are still going. We were able to do all these things at Atlanta Close. All these things slowly happened because I sat down. I had to be sat down for 2 weeks and really had to have my whole mind kind of shaped, kind of I had to reimagine a lot of things in my own mind about what I was actually doing, what I thought what I was being obedient to, what I thought I was being faithful about, how I thought I was even spending money, what I thought was a concept of money. All this happened in 2 weeks. And slowly, every week after that, every day after that, I kind of focus on how can I get better at each one of these areas, and more importantly, how can I be a better person at it? And how am I also using the new things that's coming to me? How am I giving back? Like I think all the time, even with the clothes, like you making decent with the clothes. You're not life changing money, but how do you plan on giving back to the community that gave to you? It's more than just even supporting or promoting a product. So it goes back to when people have fundraisers, you got to donate. When people are promoting their products, it's no problem for me to say, I will buy that. I don't want to have a discount off that. All those things go into changing your mindset. Like there was a time when I would have never thought about that. Like straight up, like I would have had the money in my hand and would have never thought about that. I would never thought about parting my money just to buy something just for the sake of supporting somebody. It's just what a hard thing to wrap my head around. But nowadays, it's like, why not? Like seriously, why not? You sat here, you went through this whole process in your own mind where you changed what you felt like was how you were going to do things, and that's one thing that you never did. So why don't you add that to your repertoire as well? That you need to be a giving person. You need to be a giving person all the way across the board, and not just even monetarily. Open your heart, open your studio. I've had people on the show that never thought about recently, just because they might have been on a smaller level or I didn't get their story. But that doesn't mean anything, man. Like, give them a chance. Like, somebody gave you a chance. Understand that now with this new opportunities, you have opportunity to put even more people on. And every time you put somebody on, remind them of where they came from. That we all kind of started out with needing somebody to kind of give us an assist, a hand up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that
Absolutely.
privilege and
Yeah.
reaching back and pulling people up with you, lifting as you climb, which we're definitely, we believe in that as a value, as Synergy Sesh. But I think in general, people are surprised about how the Bible has values on all these different areas, like your finances and
Yeah,
like
really.
different types of relationships and all these other things, even
My
though
mom was proud of me. She was like, "You finally did something." She said, "Matter of fact, I hear you listening. You finally did something I asked you to do."
everything in its time. My favorite Bible verse is Ecclesiastes 3:11, and it says, "Everything is beautiful in its time, yet we don't know and can't fathom what God has done from beginning to end." So, even in the when people feel like we're late to something, or even in I feel like the bigger realm of 2020. 2020 to me hasn't been like, sure, it feels like a hot fire flame, trash can,
Dumpster fire.
but really, I think of this year, and the way that I'm choosing to reflect on this year is I was given the ability to slow down, to have more deep inner thoughts with myself, and to really evaluate the path that I'm on, where I want to be, where I am, and then like how to navigate that. But I think that so many people are used to being on the rat race reel, or
Yes.
or just like going and doing. And yeah, it's like either the economy itself and like people being unable or unable to move around is going to slow people down, but then the other side of it is physically becoming sick, which, as Tiana said earlier, like, we're both hella thankful that you survived, that you lived to tell the tale, because it's not the same story for so many people out there. But that, like, even just is like, maybe you weren't going to slow down regardless.
I think about that all the time.
You probably still been like, "Yo, Herb, how can we meet up and go to the studio, or how can we do this and whatever?" Or like becoming sick made you sit down. And I think that that's what this year in general represents to me personally. Like, you're gonna sit down, you're gonna get these thoughts, you're gonna get it together.
And in all reality, and also I'm gonna learn how to watch other TV shows, not just the ones I like watching. Like recently, like recently, I got into $1 Million Listing New York. Like, I love that show. It's on Bravo. I'm 6 seasons into this, and I just realized they got another 2 seasons.
Yes.
Like,
I've watched so many real estate Netflix shows.
Have you seen Sunset? Selling Sunset.
Yes.
Okay, we did that. We did that one too. Me and Sherelle did that one. It was a blunt, and we were blunted and binge watching.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's definitely a good one. I want to talk a little bit about 2021. Because 2020, it allowed people to have a seat, dive into what they really want to do, and even, execute in some facets. Q4, we're here. This year is
big dog time.
Is big dog time. And Q4 is my favorite. I love Q4 of every single year. Every year, it's my time to sit, recap. What did you do this year? How we going hard next year? Let's get it. And so tell me about where Cash Color Cannabis, where Atlantis Clothing, Mehka King. What is 2021 looking like for you?
Oh man, I it's plans. Like I said, big Q4 is big dog time. And I remember, working in music, it was always a thing where, fourth quarter, only big dogs drop music. Like, if you ain't Jay-Z, if you ain't on that level, don't even put nothing out, because everybody's putting money behind them. Q4 is a time where, I rub my hands like I'm gonna be that dog one day. One day they're gonna get me off the bench. But right now, I've been planning on what 2021 is gonna look like, and it's gonna look like Cash Color Cannabis is gonna. I don't want to give everything away, but some things I have been working on that should have finished about a year and a half ago, that we're going to finish by March of next year. I already have that planned out, and that the team is going to expand. We're going to add some more folks to it. I know that's about to happen. I can guarantee you that we're going to see Cash Color Cannabis a channel. We're going to see the channel Cash Color Cannabis. You're going to see that happen in 2021, and you're gonna see man, you're gonna see me a lot more happier when it comes to me watching TV shows again. Because apparently, I've only watched shows that I like over and over and over again, and it's one of the things where you finally admit to yourself when you do wrong things. Like open up, dude. Like, why have you only been watching King of Queens like on a 20-hour loop? Like, there's so many other things.
There's so much more to the world.
So much more in the world, man. And for somebody who always prided himself on being so open-minded, I realized how closed-minded I've gotten myself. You know, and that's another thing that I guess popped up while I was sick. That you got so closed-minded after a while. Like even when it came to music, like I would sit down when I was gone for them couple of weeks. I sit down on YouTube and just stream through like artists. Like I ain't never heard of none of these people. Like it's dope to hear these new kids, and it's like, where have I been?
In your own bubble. I love that.
Yeah.
You have to diversify your portfolio in all realms.
Yeah,
in all realms. Because, but at the same time, there's just so much out there. How do you maintain a balance of too much consumption versus just enough so that you're able to still be in the know, do your job as, you know, an educator and continuing to inform people about things that are going around, but also maintaining your sanity, because creatives have nothing else to do but create right now. So it can also be overwhelming.
What I do is I take consumption breaks often. You know, when I've tried to I'm starting to practice yoga. Like I'm definitely getting a lot more flexible in my life. And when I initially when I first started practicing, I would have a bunch of hip hop and a bunch of stuff playing in my ear. And I thought to myself, again, your mind moves so fast when you hear certain songs, you know, like maybe slow it down. And I found these playlists of lo-fi, chill hip hop beats and things like that. I really feel like I'm in the Zen mode right now. I don't.
I love that.
I'll do that, and and I'll just zone out. Like I have to log off a lot of times. I have to not take part in so many things. When it comes to recording, a lot of times my peaceful moment throughout the week is going to watch my friends record Big Bold Pause on Saturdays, because it's something I don't have to participate in. You know, and I can just sit and kind of watch, and it's cool to watch somebody else put together their own show and be able to go home and not have to do something. So I try to make moments like that. And I think that everybody should try to make moments where you detach from the thing that you do, that you feel like you do 24 hours a day, and figure out at least 1 hour a day where you're doing something that has nothing to do with that. Go watch $1 Million List in New York. That dude Frederick, where he is.
You have to claim your time. You have to claim your time. You have to claim your energy. I'm really big on time blocking and making sure that, you know, throughout the day I'm getting things done, because there's so much of time where you think you're working, but you're not getting as much done as you actually could be getting done. I really put that into practice this quarantine season, because I'm not playing games with 2021 at all.
Never play games with them, especially with the yes you hit. Yes, we're gonna do this. Like, be honest, yes should be trademarked.
Yes, it should.
That should be trademarked.
Mehka, we're past what is it, 7:00 Pacific, 9:00 Eastern. We're past the time. That's because we started a little bit late. We don't want to keep you, but we thank you so much.
Oh no, but no doubt. I thank y'all. When 2021 opens back up and we have new energy in the room, I'm pretty sure we're gonna be able to we'll be able to do another synergy session where I'll be able to see y'all do y'all thing again.
We out there, okay? Literally can't wait. There's so many things that you said on this happy hour that have just fostered new ideas that I think Synergy Sesh can collab with Cash Color Cannabis on. That outside ain't ready. Outside ain't ready for what for what we about to have popping in Atlanta.
Please, man, let me know.
It's too lit. So thank you again. We're gonna outro real quick.
Okay.
But before we do that, let people know where they can find you on all the socials.
All right, cool. You can find me primarily at Cash Color Cannabis. That's on Instagram. It's also on Twitter. Actually, on Twitter, it's Cash Color Canna. But you can follow us on most primarily on Cash Color Cannabis. If you ever want to stop by, if you ever want to shop with Atlantabis, you can go to atlantabisclothing.com. Also follow us on Instagram at atlantabisclothing, as well as now that them are it. Make sure you subscribe to Cash Color Cannabis podcast. Though we are on almost every platform possible that's not named Tidal. We made it to Spotify, Amazon. We are on, we're everywhere. Like wherever you stream music, type in Cash Color Cannabis, you'll find us. Matter of fact, go to Alexa right now and say, Alexa, play Cash Color Cannabis. It will pop up.
I was like, don't say that too loud. She'll be like, okay.
I love it. Thank you so much again, Mehka. We're going to hold on. We're gonna hide you real quick while we do our outro.
I definitely loved all parts of that conversation because it felt like just catching up with the homie. And I love the reminder to like be a part of the creation instead of like being the creator sometimes, which I can definitely understand on so many different levels. But we hope that you all enjoyed this conversation and this kickback and this happy hour with us. Here at Synergy Sesh, we provide practical, effective, and co-created solutions that move beyond financial and business advice. And we really do seek to harmonize the relationship between your personal and business growth and development. So we want to remind you to vote if you can. Vote early. It's that time.
It really is. Please vote.
Yeah, you guys already know the spiel. We don't need to force it any more than that, but continue to advocate for causes that you believe in. Advocacy looks different for everyone. Support organizations that push causes forward. Hire more felons. Fill out your census 2020. And remember that we want to push your boundaries. So whether you're a budding entrepreneur or a seasoned business owner, we're excited about people who want to build on everything that they've already accomplished and are willing to uplift their mindset to bring about transformational change. So you can hit us up at the booking link in our bio. You can literally just go to www.synergysesh.com and all of the information is there, including our socials, booking one-on-one consultations with us, hitting us up, just saying hi, all that other good stuff. I love happy hours.
Happy hour is lit. So we are out of here. We're gonna say bye. I wanted to put us all on because we're tech savvy in this piece, okay?